Jesus, it's a trap. And gosh darn it if I don't know it. Asking Jesus to play partiality with an allegiance test between the Roman state and the Jewish people is like asking a preacher in the South to talk about money and politics from the pulpit. It's a trap. Jesus is trapped, and I'm trapped, and so now you all get to be trapped with me because I have the microphone. Joking aside, I do think that there's lots to chew on here in today's gospel passage, and I think we can do it together carefully enough to wiggle through the traps. The Pharisees and the Herodians wouldn't have had much in common except for this instant when they're trying to trap or discredit Jesus, and they start with flattery. Oh, Jesus, we know how sincere you are and how you speak the truth, and you don't change or alter your stance for anyone or anything. Please share your wisdom with us too. Flattery. But then they set him up for failure. They ask if it's lawful to pay taxes to the emperor. Now, that might sound like an innocent question to you and me, because as far as we're concerned, the only two requirements for life in America are death and taxes, right? But for them, this question was about allegiance and authority. Who is actually in charge around here? That's what they're asking. Do you pay taxes to Rome and therefore willingly support the occupation of Israel by the Roman state and all their pernicious oversight and meddling? Not a popular answer for the Jewish people he's trying to minister to. Or do you say no to the taxes? And then you become a target for Rome as a rebellious and revolutionary outcast, which dampens your ability to minister to those very same Jewish people. Either way, Jesus loses, right? Jesus does a really unremarkable thing in the face of this precarious situation. He answers a question with a question. It's like a classic move for him. Why are you putting me to the test? Show me the coin used for the tax. Whose head is on this thing? And they answer, the emperor's. Meaning, this coin is a physical object that we have ascribed value to, and it has been marked with the image of the person who ultimately owns it. Right? And Jesus responds finally with, give therefore to the emperor the things that are the emperor's, and to God the things that are God's. Now, what did we say this test was about? On the surface, it's about money, right? And it's stewardship season. So you know I could sit up here all day and we could talk about money. And it is about that. It could also be about how we handle false flattery or the hypocrisy of the world. Those things too are wrapped up in this gospel passage. But it's also about that much deeper issue that we've already named, right? Allegiance. It's about who we are supposed to give allegiance to, who has authority over us, and how we are to respond to that relationship. What is money? It's a physical object that we've ascribed a permanent value. And in Jesus' time, the money was coin-based, and the main coin, the denarius, had an image of the person who the money belonged to, the emperor. But remember, we're talking about allegiance and authority. Earlier in Matthew, in chapter 6, Jesus let everyone know that we can't serve two masters. We can't serve both money and God. But Sam, how does paying our taxes have anything to do with God? I'm glad you asked. You ask such good questions when I'm up here. The scriptures tell us again and again that all the earth belongs to God. All creation is God-breathed and God-made, and that includes you and that includes me. And what are we, if not physical objects ascribed a permanent value, marked with the image of the being to whom we ultimately belong? You and I bear the image of God within us, the image of the one to whom we belong. The whole earth, the entire cosmos, acts as the currency of God in the physical world. We give to the emperor what is the emperor's, but we give to God what is God's, and what is God's. We are all we have and all we are. Now, I'm not telling you not to pay your taxes. I would like this in the written record. Do not hear that from me, because that's a crime, right? We have to exist in the material world. But I do think what this passage does for us is ask us to examine in what order we place our allegiances. Everyone, you, me, everyone, has an internal chart of priorities and values which we base our decisions and our critiques and our actions on, right? There is a hierarchy within each of us about how we choose to do things and who and what governs those choices, right? And that happens because when our values come into competition with one another, we don't want to be paralyzed by indecision, and so we have a ranking of what matters most, right? So the question becomes, who do we give ultimate authority to in our own lives? And how does that change how we interact with the world? How we use our wealth, how we use our intellect, how we use our talents and our time? Do we use all we have and all we are in service to the man-made structures of the day and then hope that it in some way carries over into our spiritual life? Or do we use all we have and all we are in pursuit of God's glory and grace first and trust that it will flow over into our material and political life? What order is your allegiance chart in? How will you spend the currency of your life? We bear the image of a ruler who has cast out darkness and defeated death, who delights in our joy and laments in our sorrow, who transforms what little we have to offer into a feast of abundance for all who gather, and who desires peace and freedom for the entire cosmos. If we can start there, if we can spend the currency of our life committed to placing God's values and God's purpose at the top of our chart of allegiances, then the traps of life can't hold us, can't keep us, can't contain us. And unlike the coins of the Roman Empire, we get a choice in how we are spent. So what will your choice be? Amen.